إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And alhamdulillah, so we finished talking about tasrif and asma, the different ways that nouns function in terms of sarf. Now we're going to cover tasrif and af'al. And as we covered before at the beginning of this series, the science of sarf deals mostly with af'al. The science of sarf deals mostly with af'al. So the point that many beginner sarf books just speak about af'al. They just speak about verbs. Hadiqat al-sarf just speaks about verbs, yani. It speaks about nothing else. Okay, which is just important to understand. But at the same time, unfortunately, sometimes people, because of this, they won't realize how much that sarf also deals with nouns. So they won't have studied how sarf also applies to nouns, and that can cause some deficiency in their understanding of sarf. But inshallah, most of sarf deals with af'al, deals with verbs. And it deals with verbs from these six different perspectives, more or less. من حيث الصيغة, in terms of its tense, if you will. Is it ماضي, past tense, مضارع, or أمر؟ من حيث الصحة والاعتلال إلى الصحيح ومعة, from the perspective of whether it has a حرف علة inside of it or not. من حيث التصرف والجمود إلى متصرف وجامد, from a perspective of whether the verb is mutasarrif, it can change its form, meaning it can be madi, mudari', amr, and so on and so forth, or if it's jamid, meaning that it's always in one specific tense. For example, the verb laysa. The verb laysa is always in the past tense. You never have the verb laysa in the mudari' or the amr. من حيث اللزوم والتعدي إلى لازم ومتعدي, from the perspective of whether it is lazim, meaning it does not take a maf'ul bihi, or it's muta'addi, meaning that it does take a maf'ul bihi. من حيث ذكر الفاعل مبني للمعلوم ومبني للمجهول, from a perspective of whether it takes a fa'il or not, so whether it's يعني مبني للمعلوم, so it's like it takes a fa'il, the regular verb, or it's مبني للمجهول, or مبني لمن لم يسمى فاعله, يعني it takes a نائب الفاعل. ومن حيث التام والناقص, and from perspective of whether it's tam or whether it is naqis. And in the science of sarf, tam and naqis is different than in the science of nahu, as we're going to cover. Okay, as we're going to cover. So for now, we're going to cover من حيث الصيغة, from perspective of its tense or its form. So from this perspective, the verb can either be in the past tense, ذهب, or in the مضارع, يذهب, he's going or will be going, as we're going to cover, or the verb of command, اذهب, go. For the Maldi generally deals with the past tense, right? The Maldi generally deals with the past tense. Okay, سافرت أمس means I traveled in the past. But the Maldi can mean استقبال. It can carry the meaning of the future بقرينة, if there's something in the sentence that indicates that. So in the Quran, many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred to actions or things that will happen in the hereafter using the future. Many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will refer to things that will happen in the future, in the hereafter, using the past tense verb. أتى أمر الله فلا تستعجلوا. أتى is a past tense verb. Came the command of your Lord, فلا تستعجلوا. So not hasten it. The command of your Lord is the day of judgment, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using a past tense verb. Why? And this happens a lot with different things about the hereafter. The scholars say the reason why is because it is so certain. The hereafter is so certain that it's going to happen that it's as if it already happened. So Allah uses the past tense verb. Okay? Just like when we make dua, we use past tense verb. Rahimahullah means Allah had mercy upon him. Shafaq Allah means Allah healed you. Right? The Arabs, they use this tafa'ulan, out of good hope and out of yani optimism that inshallah have such good hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to have mercy on you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to have yani heal you, that's as if it already happened. Okay, as far as the different ways that the Madi is yani formed and the different possible forms they can have, يصاغ على 19 بناء, you can have 19 different forms, and we covered it before when we covered فعل, يفعل, group E, group A, and so on and so forth. The مضارع generally deals with the present tense. أذهب means I am going. Okay, but it can indicate the istiqbal. It can indicate the future بقرينة if there's something else that is indicating that. Whether that's a scene, سأذهب or سوف أذهب, or whether the context just indicates that I'm referring to the future, right? If someone calls me and says, where's Muhammad going to go? And I say, أذهب إلى المسجد, based on the this question and the context, it's understood that أذهب means here, he will be going to the masjid. Okay? And the mudari can mean the past tense if lam is behind it. Lam adhab means I did not go, right? Because lam is harfu qalbin, right? It's also a particle that will make the mudari past tense in meaning. And we cover this in nahu. If you study ajramiya, you know this. The mudari صيغته, the way that it's formed is by adding one of the huruf al-mudari. Okay, the huruf al-mudari are these extra letters that are added at the beginning of the verb to indicate that the verb is in the mudari. And these extra letters can be summarized with anaytu, anaytu. So you have the hamza in adhabu, which is when you conjugate the verb with ana, adhabu, I'm going, aftahu, I'm opening. You have the noon, which is when you conjugate the verb with nahnu, nadhabu, we are going. You have the ya, which is when you conjugate the verb in with huwa and others, to be honest with you. So yadhabu and yadhabuna and yadhabani and so on and so forth. And the ta, for example, when you say tadhabina or tadhabu and others. The amr, the verb of command, always indicates the future. You command people to do things that have to do with the future. Idha means go, yani in the future, right? In the sense that the action is not presently happening. Of course, I'm commanding you to do the action right now, in a general sense, but it's not happening right now, right? At the moment when I say idhab, you're not actually doing that action, so I'm commanding you to do it, in a general sense. Sighatu, the way that it's formed, this is a long discussion, but this is just a very, very brief breakdown. But the way that it's formed is that you're going to drop the harf mudara usually. Okay. But the way that it's formed is that you're going to drop the harf mudara, right? So the ta here and the ta here is going to go away. Okay. And when that happens, there's two scenarios. Either the verb doesn't need to have anything added to it because it can be said. So تتعلم becomes تعلم. I can still pronounce this, so it's fine. But sometimes for certain verbs, right, the thulathi mujawwad usually, you're going to have to add a hamzatul wasl at the beginning of the verb because you can't begin this. Tadhabu becomes this with a sukoon on it followed by hab. So I cannot pronounce this, so then the Arabs are going to add a hamzatul wasl like this, and it becomes idhab. And it becomes idhab. Okay. In another video, I explain this in greater details. Inshallah, I'll put that video in the description of this video. I'll put the other video where I explain this in greater details in the description of this video. Okay. But this in a general sense is how the fi'alun, the verbs, can be broken down in terms of their tense and their form. You're either going to be dealing with a past tense verb or mudara or amr, and they indicate these different general times that we highlighted. بارك محمد إن شاء الله أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين